because you need to have this type of stuff in 2025. If you are afraid to implement automation into your practice in 2025, you need to have a serious conversation with yourself about what the future of your business is, because technology, automation, AI, all of that is changing very fast.
Welcome to the Media Books Podcast, the only place on the internet where creative accounting isn't a bad thing. Owning a virtual firm today means having a professional and modern online presence, and in this podcast, we talk about how to do just that. My name is Kristen Corey, and I am the owner of Media Books, a media agency that provides creativity exclusively to accounting firms. And if you're an accounting firm owner, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Media Books Podcast. My name is Kristen Corey, and today I have with me Jamie Gruol. Jamie helps tax and accounting professionals streamline their practices, increase profits, and reclaim their time. As co-creator and CEO of Workflows for Tax Pros, she has helped over 1,000 tax pros and accountants eliminate admin chaos and build scalable, high-profit practices using automation. With an MBA, accounting background, and a decade in software implementation, Jamie bridges the gap between technology and tax practice operations. She equips small but growing practices with automation once reserved for industry giants, without the IT headaches. Based in Vermont with her husband, 2 kids, Jamie enjoys mountain biking, skiing, gardening, and she believes in building a business that works for you, not the other way around. Thank you so much, Jamie, for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me, Kristen. I'm so excited to be here today.
Yeah. So for people who are maybe just getting started or don't have a super technical background or like very long tax accountant history, what is TaxDome?
Yeah, so it's a great question and a really good jumping off point. So TaxDome is a practice management tool. So as practitioners find, tax professionals, accountants, bookkeepers, when you're getting started, you can keep a lot in your head. You can keep a lot in spreadsheets. You can do a lot in email. But as you start growing your business into something that is more full-time, more complex services, more complex clients, you really need to have a practice management system. And that is what TaxDome is. So a practice management system is intended essentially to be like the hub of your business. I love to look at it as like the heart of your business because it manages all of your client information. So the contact info, who's married to whom and what accounts do they have, what businesses do they own, all of those like details that you are trying to keep track of. But it doesn't stop there because this is really leveraging automation, it's leveraging AI, and there's so many ways that technology powers a practice especially with TaxDome, because it can be your document management system. It allows you to get electronic signatures and do invoicing and payments and workflow management, which we're going to talk about today, and task management, team management, communications within your team. Like it literally becomes the brain and the heart of your business and allows you to work so much more effectively and efficiently. I think a lot of tax professionals and accountants, as they're building their practices, like I said, you start really simple. You've got 4 or 5 clients. You think, oh, I can manage this. So you get the work and the services done. And then you have 25 clients and you start implementing a spreadsheet so you can keep track of all the different steps you're going through. And then you have 50 clients and you're like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. And you're sending emails manually and you're sending document requests manually. And all of those things are manual and take up your time. But when you get over that like 35 to 50 clients, most people, even the side hustlers, are like, I need a system and a practice management solution to help me do this better, because we want to work smarter, not harder. And I think the old school way of thinking in this industry, and probably where a lot of people started if they've been in the industry for a bit, is that we just hire. We hire staff, we hire somebody to help us manage that spreadsheet, manage sending the emails for us. But that was the old way of working. And the new way of working is getting systems in place so that you can scale smart. And that means that you keep your profit. You're not sending it off to somebody, even at 5 or 10 hours a week. Like, that's still money that's coming out of your business that you could go and buy for $80 a month, a tool that's going to not only help you scale as a solo, but also as somebody who then brings on an assistant. And then as you grow that and you're ready for a more technical person or a bookkeeper, like somebody to come in and help you scale thoughtfully. And so that's what we do at Workflows for Tax Pros is we help people take that tool of TaxDome, that practice management tool, and plug it into strategies, systems, and structure that help them to have the business that they love. Because, we're not taught that stuff when we start businesses, right? I don't know if you felt that, but that's certainly how I feel. It's kind of like fumbling through the dark. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, here's maybe a little glimmer of light. And so you kind of seize on that. And then you're like, oh, maybe that didn't work the way I wanted it to. So we've done the mapping out for small tax professionals and accountants, how to set up a scalable, efficient business that they'll love.
Yeah. That's, an awesome explanation. I think so many times you feel like, oh my gosh, everything's a mess. No one look at this. Thank goodness no one can see this.
Yes.
But it's still a problem.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, real quick, just for anyone listening, I meant to mention this at the beginning. If you are listening to this on the podcast, awesome, love to have you here. But something to also maybe consider is watching this on YouTube. We are going to do a lot of visuals today. And so YouTube is going to be a great place to check that out or check out specifically what we're talking about.
And if you can't get to YouTube right now, then you can listen, and you might want to go back and listen again and kind of see some of the things that I'm sharing. I'm going to try and describe it as much as I can, but it's always easier to see it in person.
Yeah, a lot of visual mediums right here. So
yeah.
I do have one question. Right now you're focusing a lot, TaxDome, as it implies, it's for tax accountants. Could bookkeepers or people that don't offer tax services benefit from this conversation, or how could they use TaxDome?
Yeah, great question. And actually, TaxDome has that question a lot, to the point where they're actually changing their name.
Really?
So they're getting rid of the tax part, because what I loved about this tool, so I entered the industry through helping online businesses like coaches, service providers, build out software to help them with managing their business and their client management. And then my co-founder, Jessica Smith, who's an enrolled agent, she and I bumped into each other on the internet streets in a huge group of 35,000 people. And we connected, and just casually, like a market research type call. And then a few months later, she reaches out to me and she says, hey, there's this new tool on the market that I know this other software, Dubsado. This software is specifically for the tax and accounting industry. And it's really slick, and it's way easier than Dubsado. And because a lot of tax professionals were using Dubsado to do contracting and engagement letters and things, because that was one of the solutions out there. And so I looked into it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I could use this in my business, because it's got all the functions and features that I would need if I was doing, one-on-one support. Yeah. And so, yes, the long answer to a very short question, yes, you can automate any workflow in a practice or a business, period. So you can do your new lead management, which is what we're going to talk about today, and how you can really make your website more effective in managing those leads that come in through your beautiful website that Kristen builds for you. And then you can do tax prep. You can do client onboarding into bookkeeping services and payroll services and sales tax. You can do advisory work. So whether you're doing CFO level work or tax planning advisory work, whatever that looks like for you, any workflow can be automated in TaxDome. And when we talk about automation, this is probably a good foundational level thing too, is that a lot of people, one of the big things they say is well, all my clients are different. So how do I automate something where everyone is different? Yeah. But the thing is to complete a tax planning advisory assessment, you have to go through the same steps for everyone. And you're probably sending communications, or wishing you were sending communications to your client about, hey, I need this information before we can schedule your advisory assessment session so that we can have an effective open conversation about your actual situation. And a lot of people end up sending those emails through templates in their Outlook or in their Gmail, and that takes time. So, but if we create automations, the first thing we do is we say, what are the steps that everybody must go through to get from point A to point Z in your process, right? Z being the ultimate outcome or the result that the client is engaging for. And once we have that kind of high level, we then go through detailed step by step. What is occurring in this first step of onboarding a client into the service? What information do we need? What kind of forms are you having them complete? What documents are you requesting from them? And then what you'll do is you'll translate that over to what the automation tool can do. And so when we're thinking about workflows, we're looking at like that foundational level of what everyone must go through. And then we can customize and make things unique where necessary by altering the workflows a little bit to allow a human intervention, if you will. Like send this specific engagement letter or send this engagement letter template, but update it and make it unique for this client that it's going out to.
Okay.
So we get to control that within automation, because I think a lot of people think, oh, if I automate, like it's removing me completely from, it's like having the robots all come in. It's like robots come in at very strategic points where it's things that you don't need to be doing, right? Sending reminders, sending status emails, sending, the request for the documents at that specific point in the process. So we can talk more about how automation can trigger and how cool it can work for us. But I just wanted to lay that out too, because that's a question we hear a lot.
Yeah. No, it totally makes sense. So I guess kind of just like starting maybe a little bit high level, what is the biggest mistake that you see tax pros making when managing leads from their website, and how does it impact their practice?
Yeah. So let's start with the websites first.
Okay.
I think there is as the industry is catching up with technology, because like I said, the old school way was, maybe you have a website, but there was a lot of people being locally focused and therefore not needing websites because they knew that, the clients they had were looking them up in the yellow pages or they were finding them in the newspaper. Well, in 2025, it's very different. And so if you're building a practice today, you can't necessarily adopt your mentor's way of marketing. And so having a website is critical. And it can't be a website where it's just CPA firm ABC.
Yeah.
We do taxes, right? People don't connect with that. And so when you create a website where people are able to connect with you and really get a sense of who you are, it's a mix of that website and the services you provide and your personal brand. In 2025, you have to have a personal brand, even as a CPA firm, right? Like you serve a specific type of client. You are not for everyone, and you shouldn't be for everyone. And so in order for the tax professionals and accountants who are tired of compliance work where they're getting low value clients coming and knocking on their door and saying, I'll only pay you $200 for a tax return, in order to step into the people that will pay you $750 or $1,000 for the same tax return and the same effort of that tax return, you have to have an outward appearance of somebody that provides value to them and has the professional standing and the personality that is attractive to them. So what does that mean? It means you have to have a strong niche that you serve. You can still serve your grandma from down the road, but you need to be attracting high value clients, or else you're going to burn yourself out because you're trying to do 1,000 returns in a tax season, right? As a solo practitioner, we have some clients like that, and they're happy. Like they've been doing it for years. It's just what they know. But a lot of the people coming up don't want that life, right? Yeah. And so you need to have your niche. You need to have the packages that you offer, the services you offer, and that needs to be really value loaded and not hourly work, right? It needs to be of value, so people will pay you $750 or $1,000 for that tax return, because they're not going to do it just for you to enter the data into your prep software and send it off. Yeah. They need to see the impact and the results of what your work does for them and the needs that they have in their financial life. And then the last thing I want to just add here is that when you're taking them through the process, I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make is that they have a very generic website, is number one. But number two is when those leads come through, maybe they invest into someone like you, Kristen, and you guide them through this. You take them through the branding and you take them through the storytelling, you take them through the copywriting so that they stand out. Because I've seen your websites and the clients that you've done websites for, like that's what they're doing, right? Like they're storytelling, they're attracting, they're becoming a magnet. If you do that and you have clients come into your website, but you're so broken on the back end, and you're getting all these leads, these emails coming through, and maybe you have a template email that you send back to them, but there's no system behind it, those leads die. And then you've wasted those leads, because those people are like, well, she doesn't know what she's doing. Like she has this beautiful website. She looks real pretty on the outside, but in the back end, she can't keep it together. She can't get me, like, we can't get on the phone. And so I think those leads get wasted is the biggest challenge that people have. So you invest into the marketing, but you don't necessarily convert the leads the way that you can or should be.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's, you just think about what you're communicating. I mean, if you have on your website that you're detail oriented, but you can't respond to an email, like that's a pretty big detail. And I mean, I'm thinking about a tax return with all the tiny lines and all the little numbers. Are you going to miss something on my tax return because you missed my email? So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, that's, I think, it's just, yeah, it's communicating your value. It's communicating that, hey, I'm detail oriented. I'm good at my job. And I'm giving you that experience from the very beginning.
Yeah. And I want to add something to that too, because I am detail oriented, but I'm also probably on like the ADD, ADHD spectrum. And so I'm doing a lot of things all the time. And if I didn't have automated systems in my business, I would not have a business, frankly, because the follow-up, the like sending that initial email, or I'll see the email while I'm trying to do like 3 things at once. And I'm like, oh yes, I need to reply to that person. I don't remember until it's like 8, 12, 14 hours later. And I'm in the middle of bathing my child in the bathtub. And I'm like, oh crud, I forgot to send that email. Or I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, it's just that constant loop is open. But when you have automations and you have a beautiful website and people are being attracted to you and you have a system to drop them into, and that's doing the work for you of communicating with them what this experience is going to be like, it takes a huge load of stress off of you, because you know that you can grow when you want to grow.
Right.
And you can turn off the faucet when you're like, nope, we're good. We're at capacity.
Yeah.
You can go into a wait list, or you can do things with those leads. You don't have to always bring them on. And I want to talk about that today too, because I think that a lot of people are getting on the phone with people they shouldn't be getting on the phone with.
Yeah.
And they're letting these calls interrupt them in the middle of the day and say, hey, are you taking clients? Like, if you're trying to be heads down focused, if you have an admin that can manage that for you, great. But if you're trying to be heads down focused and do service delivery for your clients, and then somebody calls to say, hey, are you taking clients? And you answer that phone, like that breaks your concentration. You have to then, what do they say? It takes like 20 minutes to get back on task to where you were and like pick back up the momentum you were in by an interruption.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's all for a tire kicker who isn't necessarily an ideal fit. But when you have a system, you have a voicemail that they direct them to. And this is not for everyone. You can have different layers of this, or levels of this, but you have a voicemail that says, hey, we're sorry we missed your call. If you're interested in working with us, please go to our website and check out our services there. It will guide them right into your funnel, if you want to call it a funnel, but it's a sales process, right? And then you don't have to worry about them leaving a voicemail and you having to call back. Because if that's the kind of, like, if you've decided you don't want to serve clients that demand you on the phone, then don't answer the phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like, we all have different tolerances and different desires in our businesses. Mm-hmm. For me, when people demand that I get on the phone, I know they're not the right fit for me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a boundary that I think, I don't know if it's like a millennial thing, but a lot of us are just like, I'm not getting on the phone. And like, even office hours, like I'll work on the weekends on occasion, but I still schedule my emails to go out Monday because you don't want to set that expectation. You're always setting those expectations before they even sign that engagement letter.
100%. And that is the key. I mean, that is the key I found in my business, and that on the 1,000 clients that we have served, it's the ones that decide these are the boundaries I'm implementing. Yeah. And the systems to back that up.
Yeah. So, okay, talking about automation and maybe clients that we're trying to avoid. If a tax pro wants to, let's say, stop wasting their time on the price shoppers and the no-shows, what is a simple automation that they can do today to eliminate that?
Well, if they have TaxDome, I can show them how they could do it today. Okay. If they don't have TaxDome, then I recommend that they look in their practice management software if they have one. And if they don't have a practice management software, then I recommend that they, at the end of this, I'm going to give them a link to a free resource. Follow the link to check out TaxDome with us, because you need to have this type of stuff in 2025. So let me talk a little bit to those technically not current people. I'll put it that way. Yeah. If you are afraid to implement automation into your practice in 2025, you need to have a serious conversation with yourself about what the future of your business is. Because technology, automation, AI, all of that is changing very fast. And those practice owners that are choosing to avoid implementing it because they're afraid of the effort that it's going to take, the time that it's going to take, they're going to be basically made irrelevant in the next 3 to 4 years, I'm betting. Probably less time than that. Yeah. And your clients are going to find you irrelevant. They're going to go find somebody that has a virtual portal, that has automation, that can serve them in a way that they want to be. Because as you said, millennials are different. They're going to be the ones that are going to be holding the big bag of money that you're going to be wanting to work with. And so that's a big piece. And then the other piece is, making sure that you are thinking about what your full long-term vision is, because if you are on the verge of retiring in the next 5 to 10 years and you're like, I'm just not going to do it, your practice is actually going to be worth pennies on the dollar as compared to somebody who has implemented automation, has converted their clients over to using automation and virtual portals and streamlining that practice. Nobody's going to want to pick up a bunch of people for top dollar who don't want to use virtual systems that's younger than 50 years old, like as a new practice owner or somebody that you're going to sell it to. So I just want to add those notes in. Yeah. But let's talk about this. So some of the things I'm going to show are maybe, I
do have one question. So I should have asked this earlier, but I think I'm coming from like the marketing background. I'm thinking about email campaigns, websites, social media. We kind of have automation as like one definition. In the accounting space, or I guess even in general in workflows and operations, what is automation? Is that like just scheduling your email to go out at a certain time? What does that, what is sort of like everything under that umbrella?
Let's look at it in action.
Okay.
How's that?
Yeah, let's look at it.
Cool. Let me share my screen here. Okay. So let's talk about what automation is. So this is my co-founder, Jessica Smith. She owns Tax Savvy Advisors. She has a beautiful website, very similar to the same type of work that Kristen puts out for her clients, but she tells a lot of story about who she is, who she serves. I'm going to start back on her main page. You can see she sells to tax strategies for 6-figure coaches and consultants. She is calling them out very clearly who she works with, right? And so then once they say, oh yeah, that's me, they can go and check out her tax packages. So she has everything here on the page about what she does and who she serves and how she serves them, right? You can see it lays out very clearly all that's included in her value-based packages. This is the key. If you're on hourly or individual a la carte type menuing, again, that is going to be irrelevant in the coming years, and you need to start thinking value-based practice or packages for your practice. We can help you convert those if you need help with that process. But she also has a fit and pricing quiz. So when I say automation, this is the kind of automation I'm talking about. Somebody could come in here at 2 a.m. on a Wednesday, and Jessica doesn't have to worry about being there to send this thing out, right? Mm-hmm. She is using automation to allow the client or prospective client to click on this fit and pricing guide and fill this out according to their current situation. And what she's done is, I'll just fill this out for you. I can then fill in and tell her exactly how much I make. And this is a smart quiz that is actually identifying for this person, specific person, an outcome that she thinks would be the best fit. So she's going to say, what is your business structure? We'll say sole prop. Question, I don't know why that's on there twice. I have to let her know if she has a little technical issue there. What kind of contact availability are you looking for? Minimal, some, full support. Everybody has a different flavor of what they're looking for from their tax professional, right? Maybe I'm just getting started, so minimal is all I think I can afford. But let's say I'm looking for full support. They can again select this. How many check-ins a year would you like? We'll just say 2. And then we can get stuff done. I prefer to do things myself with a bit of guidance, or I prefer to have your team handle everything. So again, she's asking them these very strategic questions. So what's going on in your life that led you to be here today? I need a new tax pro. And then this can be filled out. One last thing, she gathers their name. Oops. I'm just going to put my email. Whoops. Cap on. My email at gmail.com. That is not my real email. I'd be rich if it was.
So
We'll see what happens.
is this TaxDome or is this another app?
So this is not, this is just her website. But what I'm trying to get you, this is the filtering that you can do so that people don't end up knocking on your door saying, I want to work with you. And they're nowhere near the right fit, right? So if somebody came in and they were making $40,000 a year, Jessica can now say, I don't think we're the right fit for you, but here are a few resources of who you could be working with. Right off her website, right? Yeah. So that's automation. Try it again.
It's okay. We can.
Okay, there. So it says, hey, this is your essentials package. And what Jessica can now do is she can educate them on exactly who she is. So they come in pre-sold into her practice. Yeah. So they can scroll right down all of these pages. And if they're ready to get started, she tells them exactly what's going to happen next. Create an account, apply online, and then schedule a call. So again, she's not having to get on the phone to tell somebody to do this. Yeah. She's not having to send an email to tell somebody to do this. They are automatically going through her system. Okay. And so when they click this enroll now, they're going to get a screen that looks like this. This is their her TaxDome system. So up to this point, this person is considered like a prospect. They are still just a lead, but they have not filled out the application that she requires in order to work with her. And so when they get to this point, they're going, and she told them on the last screen, they're going to add an email address in here, and it's going to create an account in their TaxDome system. And this is going to kick off the automations specific to this person in my TaxDome system. Test Kirsten. Okay. So I'm going to click continue. It's going to say, hey, tell me a little bit more about you. And then I can add a phone number. And then this little power button here, this is the automation maker in this system. So they click that and it's going to say, let's create a password. All right, so there is my email, and I'm going to paste in this code that it sends me. So it validates the email. The person's not going into your TaxDome system with a broken email, because that's annoying always, right? And then it clicks, let's get started. And what's going to happen is my client is seeing in their system exactly what I'm going to have set up. So this is we have two-factor authentication that is available in TaxDome, and you can create 08. Okay, so now we're in. And so again, if we took the time to look at Jessica's page, she's telling the client these steps all throughout her info page there. Right. And when they get here, we have a new client application. This is how you get to say, I want to meet with you or I don't want to meet with you. And again, this is all happening automatically. So the client is receiving this stuff without us being engaged in this. And we can have TaxDome automate many things. So we got a chat here and an organizer. And these are all custom to the way that I want to word and explain things to this new lead, to invite them into understanding who we are, how we work, in addition to what we just put on the website. But we can make it a continuous conversation with them through automation. And so they can read this chat, gives them a little bit more instruction, and then they have to complete this organizer. Now, the other cool thing that TaxDome is going to do is it's going to say, okay, this person got this application because they said they were interested in working with us. They set up the account. If I did this and I'm like, oh, I have to answer these questions. I don't have time. My child just, spilled the spaghetti sauce all over the floor. Mm-hmm. If I buzz away to go take care of that, I can have it set up so that it automatically reminds them in a couple of days. And then again in a couple more days. And then again in a couple more days. And I'll show you in a second. The other thing that this automation lets us do is we can actually track how long somebody has had this application and not completed it. And then we can intervene and say, oh, they haven't completed this yet. I should give them a call. Yeah. And you can put in a phone call because you have their phone number from setting up that account. Or you can send them a more personalized message that says like, hey, it seems like you were interested in working together and you didn't complete our application. We do need that in order to know if you're the right fit. Is there anything I can do to help you make that happen if you do still want to work together?
Yeah.
And you're going to get people that are going to ghost you. That's no different than any other lead process, but this one's just much more managed. Yeah. So they would go through and they would fill out this application. So let me show you what it looks like for the firm so that you can see how much value that can bring to you as a practice owner over here. So this is my pipeline in TaxDome. So this is the TaxDome screen for me as the practice owner. I am currently in my new lead onboarding, and I'm going to go ahead and refresh this because this first stage here is where you're going to see that new client pop up after I refresh. And there it is. Jamie Test Kristen, that's the one we just created. And you can see it's giving me a timer of how long they've been here. I can now click into this and I can see if they have completed it, if they have taken any action on the organizer, if they've looked at it even. I have access to all of this information that will allow me to more better manage my leads and make sure that I am staying, if I'm in a season of growth, every lead counts, right? And if you're in a season of not such a big deal, maybe you just let it ride and you kind of just see who goes into the next stage.
Yeah.
But what will happen is this client, when they go in, I'm going to force this to go through. When they go in and fill this out and give me all the information that I'm asking for, and actually in the freebie I'm going to tell you guys at the end, I'm going to give you the exact questions that we have in this template that is part of our program, Workflows for Tax Pros, and you can build this out in your TaxDome if you do have TaxDome. And it's the exact questions we ask in the application. So I'm going to submit it like the client filled it out and submitted it. What you're going to see is when I hit save and exit here, this job card right here is actually going to automatically move into the next stage. Oh, let me save and exit. Let me give it a refresh. There we go. So that client moved. So when my client finishes that application and they tell me, they say submit at the bottom of that application, the system is going to automatically move it to the next stage where it can inform me through a communication in TaxDome with a task that assigns it to me and says, hey, you got an application. That pops up on my task to-dos for tomorrow or today or whenever I'm looking at that. And I'm going to review that application and determine, is this a right fit or is it not? And then I can say, if they're not a right fit, then you don't have to meet with them. You send them a kind email in the next step that says, hey, looks like we're not a fit. The other thing we're doing is we're starting to build that communication and those touch points with that person through sending automatic emails. So this send email means that email actually went out to the client that says, hey, we got your application. Here's what you can expect next. And it's not scheduling of emails. It's like actual literal sending of emails through these automated workflows that we have created and proven work for small practices with the many hundreds of clients that we've had go through them. And this is where you get to offload so much of the burden of managing and operating your practice onto a tool and into a tool like TaxDome.
Yeah.
Does that help you see kind of how this all works, Kristen?
Yeah, no, it really does. And like, that's, I think, the thing that's maybe so intimidating is, let's say people feel like, oh, let's say they get 3 leads a month. For someone who maybe doesn't get a ton of leads a month and they aren't overwhelmed by it, you've already talked about how like, hey, this is going to kind of set you up with room to grow. But there's also so much additional information in there that I think is useful. If you're in those stages where you're like, I'm still not getting an overwhelming amount of clients. And you said something earlier that I think was really interesting compared to like a normal website where we'll put together a form, or let's say you have a Calendly link and people are starting to go through the process. Sometimes people no, you know what, this isn't for me, or they leave. After you already have their information, they've entered in their information into TaxDome, you can follow up with them after bounce rate is web design term, but after they've kind of left the process. And so that's information that you don't get with normal like web design or Squarespace or Calendly apps, is you don't get that, hey, did they leave and who are they information.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think too, the information that you gather in that application, the other benefit to that is people that do actually stick through and you get on the phone with them, the industry is set, like there's people that charge $400 for their hour because they know how valuable their time is.
Yeah.
And if they're going to sit on the phone or on a meeting with someone to have someone see if they're a good fit, they're spending a lot of time there. They're gathering information about them. But what we can do with this application is we can gather a lot of that base level information, including even a prior year tax return if you want to. And you can have that information going into that actual sales call with that person when they schedule it. And you can cut that call down from an hour, hour and a half, depending on how detailed you have your sales calls, down to like 20 or 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I know Jessica, she used to have an hour-long sales call with people because she had to gather, what is your business? Tell me about what you do. Do you have children? Like all that base level information that we can get in that application. she now has at her fingertips. She looks at it 15 minutes going into the call. She's already squared up with like, what can I do to solve this person's problem? Now it's just a conversation around, this is what you said was kind of your challenge. Here's how, like, tell me more about that rather than tell me about how many kids you have and how, are you married, and all those details that suck up so much time in a sales call typically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you get to free up your time significantly using these types of systems as well. And I think you raise an important point that there are people that only have a few leads coming in each month, or that's not a priority of theirs. The other thing you need to think about, and this is something Jess and I talk about often, is that if somebody's referring a family member to you and you don't treat that referral like they're the next like gift to you, it's going to get back to that current client, and they're either going to be embarrassed that they recommended you because you didn't treat them with respect and actually give them a chance. Maybe they're not an ideal fit, and that's okay to tell them too. Yeah. But if you don't introduce them into a system, a structured system like this, and they like you basically ghost them because you're too busy with other clients to take care of the referrals that are coming in, and you may not know they're a referral until like a later point in your process.
Yeah.
That doesn't look very good on you either.
Yeah.
Right? And you could have burned a bridge that maybe could have brought you your next $20,000 client.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because I have the same accountant as my parents. And my mom will be like, I'm not gonna say his name, but he hasn't responded to me. Can you reach out to him? And now I'm annoyed because I have to reach out to the accountant and be like, hey, my mom's trying to get a hold of you. Like, I'm 13 years old showing my mom how to use the phone. Like, can you respond to my mom? And like, now I'm annoyed. And it's like bad friction that like no one needs. Yeah. There's too many apps and ways to make your life easy. To be in that situation.
100%. And this, we're talking about leads that aren't actually like paying customers.
Yeah.
That's a paying customer that you're not replying to. Like, don't even get me started on that customer service experience.
Yeah. That's a whole nother thing. So we have kind of like the first initial collecting leads. Can you tell us a little bit about like day to day after you've established the lead? How does TaxDome help you? What kind of workflows could we expect to see when working with you?
So this pipeline that I was sharing, I'll share my screen again here. Okay, so what I wanted to show you is that this is the pipeline we were just looking at. So the application. This first part, this is like your sales process up to the discovery call, right? Mm-hmm. Then when somebody says, heck yeah, I want to work with you, I think you're the best thing that could like happen in my life. We then have steps to onboard them into our services depending on what they decide to do with us, right?
Yeah.
So we have those that only go through tax prep. They get treated differently than somebody that's stepping into our full services, right? Yeah. Where maybe we're doing bookkeeping and payroll or whatever that special like situation is and solution is for them. But we get to control this, and we get to, again, manage it, and we get to lean into automations where we can assign work out to our admins to help us in managing some of this onboarding as well, or other team members. And if you're a solo practitioner, having this kind of detail, what this does is it gets it all out of your head.
Yeah.
You're no longer having to think like, oh my gosh, where's this person in my process? You click into the job card here. This is a job for this specific client. I can see exactly what I did. I can leave myself notes. I can leave myself comments. I can attach different documents that I've gotten from this person. There's no limitation to what kind of information we're gathering. And that all stays with that client in my TaxDome system for the extent, like for the duration of their time working with me. Okay. So I can always reference back to things. Yeah. And when we have, like when we're trying to keep spreadsheets of leads and we're keeping notes over here, and then we've got a Google sheet over here where we're tracking that client's onboarding, and then we've got a document that has like their bookkeeping particulars, like all of that is floating out in other systems. TaxDome brings it all into one place, which makes you more efficient when you're trying to track down information.
Right.
I think that's one of the things people want to pull their hair out most. I know I do. I go into my Google Drive. I'm like, I don't even know where to start. Thank goodness for search, right? What keyword did I use this time? So that is like the first thing. The other thing that TaxDome does is it will give you, like when I was talking about pipelines, down here, this starting like right here, these are all the different types of templates that we have in our program, Workflows for Tax Pros. So we have tax prep templates, depending on the kind of services you want to provide. We have bookkeeping, we have sales tax, we have bookkeeping cleanup, we have accounting client or tax prep client bookkeeping cleanup. Like there's so many unique attributes to the different templates and workflows that we've created that are already done for you, that are part of our program. This is the strategy that I was talking about, right?
Yeah.
When you take the tool and you plug it into the strategy, that's where the magic happens, because a lot of people take these tools and they think, I'm just going to replicate what I'm currently doing. And they're like, why isn't it working? Yeah. Why am I not seeing the time savings that my colleague who has TaxDome and workflows for tax pros is raving about, right?
Yeah.
It's because you don't have the actual system that can get you to that desired practice model and life you want.
Yeah.
Right? You're trying to replicate what you've already got, and it's not going to get you there.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So does that kind of give you an idea of what's there?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's so many things that we don't think about until we're in it, but to kind of have always someone that's like, hey, I just reached this next level in my business. I'm overwhelmed. You clearly have like a process for everything. So, yeah.
Helpful. And the nice thing too about TaxDome is it centralizes all of this. So you can just come in at the beginning of every morning and you have your little task of like, I'm going to start with my open tasks today and I'm going to pull up my list. I can come right into my Inbox Plus and see all the tasks that have been assigned to me overnight, or go into a list where I can filter those by urgency or a specific service line that I want to work on today. Tax prep, for example, everybody's in that right now as they're wrapping up the tax season. They can go exactly to the point where they want to work.
Yeah.
And it allows them to know, okay, I'm prioritizing right now e-signatures and getting those 8879s back so I can file before the 15th deadline, right? I can go right into my pipeline and I can see exactly where my clients are at in that pipeline. Right here, right?
Yeah.
E-file a return. It's telling me these are all the ones that I need to go take action on. And that's when you build out a system and a workflow that is meant to tell you exactly what to do next. You don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
You just execute.
Yeah.
And that's where you save so much time.
Makes sense. Gotcha. Okay. Well, I do want to, I feel like I can keep asking you more questions.
I know. And we can go deep in this.
Yeah. But I guess for any like last words, anything you want to kind of share with the audience before we close out.
Well, I want to speak to the person that is feeling overwhelmed right now. Maybe you've bought softwares before, practice management solutions, they haven't worked. Maybe you've got something that is kind of working, but you're like, it's not any better, and I feel capped again. It bought you a little bit of efficiency, but you're again capped. You need to think about, again, what strategy, what systems, and what structure do you have in your practice that is going to allow you to achieve the goals that you have for time freedom, financial freedom, bringing on team members to help you with, expanding your services, whatever that looks like for you. Everyone has a different vision of what that business should be. And I think number one, I would say as a takeaway, sit down and really think about after when things are a little bit quieter for you, not in the middle of tax season, what do I want of my business? What am I creating? Yeah. And is that business, how does that support the life that I truly want? So you need to make sure that you're not just doing what you've always done because that's what you know. You need to sometimes lean into the uncomfortability of learning new things and trying new things, being an experimenter, something I'm really leaning into in my business. Because when you do that, you can test and see if this is going to actually help me hit those goals, that vision, that dream that I have for my life. And you can start modifying things. Mm-hmm. And so that would be one of the big things. And if you're concerned about how your clients will migrate with you into a new vision and into a new way of working, most of our clients are scared of that too. But they do it anyways. They do it scared. And I will say probably 85% of them to 90% of them, actually there's no impact, no major impact in their clients list. Maybe they lose a couple of people, but they're like, those were the people I really wanted to leave. Yeah. So this was a good thing. And then you have you now have more capacity so you can go and find more valuable, higher paying clients. And you can skill up in the next level of skills or learn the next tax planning advantage that you can direct your clients to. And that extra time that you get, we call it the margin method, that is invaluable as a small business owner. Yeah. And so don't be scared of what your clients will think, they will come along with you, especially if you have a strong relationship with them. And we can help. We've helped people transition over 2 or 3 years to help make that something that's not like really stark to their clients, but it gives them the vision they want.
Right.
And I'll leave you with this one little client anecdote. So we had a client who came to us who had always dreamed of living in Paris, but she was living in Midwest. She had clients she had served for a very long time. She'd retired, like she was kind of at like retirement age. And so she knew she was going to start slowly kind of quieting down her practice and getting rid of those clients, but she wanted to move to France, and life's short, right? We all know this. She got TaxDome. She implemented our systems. And when she joined us, she had that vision that that's where she wanted to go. And in 2.5 years, she was putting in her visa to be able to become a French resident. And she migrated all of her clients over. They still have a place to drop off documents back where she came from, if that's what they want to do, but everything goes into the TaxDome system so she can work on it in France and live the life of her dreams. So just know that there's no too wild of a life dream to achieve, and technology, TaxDome, workflows for tax pros can get you there.
That's awesome. I love that story. That's so great. I mean, that's like, everyone's like, oh, like the greatest win. I hit, 6, 7 figures, whatever. But it's like, no, you moved to France and like, you can still do your job.
You lived out your lifelong dream of living in France.
Oh, that's fantastic. Is there any resources or anything in the show notes that people should check out?
Yes. Yeah, I will. The link will be below, but I put together for you guys a little workbook on exactly what we've talked about today, how to create a system in your practice that will allow you to have the information that you need. I called it the website conversion system for tax pros and accountants. But it walks you through the exact things you need to be thinking about. And I also included in there a template to our application. So go and get that. You can find it at workflowsfortaxpros.com/Kristen. And we'll have the link below as well. And in there, you can get all the things we've talked about and hopefully set up a system similar to what we discussed today so that you can start putting out an application, protecting your time, and actually pulling back and only meeting with ideal fit clients. That's my goal for you.
Awesome. And last question, where can people find you online?
Awesome. Yeah. Workflowsfortaxpros.com. Head there, and on that main page, you'll find a link out to our Facebook group. You can ask us any questions you have, contact us there.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Jamie. This was so fun, and I'm sure people are going to get a ton of value out of this.
Oh, well, thank you for having me, Kristen. It's been a joy, and I really appreciate all the good work you're doing too for the industry.
Awesome. See you later. When it comes to designing websites, the service page always takes much more time than anticipated. It can sometimes be hard to verbalize everything you do, so I always recommend simplifying, which is what I'm going to do right now with MediaBooks. Here at MediaBooks, we offer 3 services for every stage of your business. We offer web design for when you are just getting your marketing strategy up and running, or you need a website refresh. We offer website audit services for those DIYers, and we also have advisory services for those who love their website and are ready to advance their marketing skills. Get started with MediaBooks by visiting MediaBooksAgency.com. MediaBooks, the only place on the internet where creative accounting isn't a bad thing.